You can say anything you want about the LA Clippers. You can talk about the blown 3-1 lead to the Nuggets last season. You can talk about Paul George and his struggles come playoff time, most notably hitting the side of the backboard. You can talk about how guys like Marcus Morris and Patrick Beverley can be so unlikable. You can talk about Kawhi underperforming and not being a leader. But you can also talk about how good the Clippers have looked so far this season. Over the past couple months, a lot of NBA fans have lost perspective on the Clippers, and particularly Paul George. Yes, I know it's the early part of the regular season, and we're going to base the Clippers' success solely based on what they do in the playoffs, and I agree. But let's not act like they're not one of the 4 to 5 best teams in the NBA. And let's not act like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are not both top 20 players in the NBA. Now, am I going to pick the Clippers to win a championship like I did last season? No, I won't go that far, but they look very nice right now. Let's talk about the seasons we're having right now and what my expectations are for them moving forward this season. The Clippers currently sit at 10-4 and second in the West, nothing out of the ordinary. They're on a 4-game win streak right now and have the third highest point differential in the league. But they look more like an actual team now than any point last season. The Clippers are shooting an NBA record 44% from 3 so far, which is absolutely absurd, but unfortunately nobody cares, and rightfully so. We will judge the Clippers solely on their playoff performance due to the expectations we put on them. If that's the case, then why are we overreacting to a blowout loss to the Mavs a couple weeks ago? Was it horrendous? Yes, but almost every good team has those moments where they get blown out by a team they're not supposed to get blown out by. But other than that, they have looked absolutely amazing so far, but sadly, no one will give them praise until they perform in the playoffs. But why didn't the Clippers perform in the playoffs last season? I think it was a mixture of a couple things. Number one being chemistry. The Clippers last season had a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup for so many different reasons, so they were never able to build that chemistry, and apparently Kawhi and PG got preferential treatment, which didn't go over well with some of the members of the team. But Kawhi and PG only played like 30-something games together all of last regular season. PG was still dealing with his shoulder injury, and Kawhi was dealing with knee issues along with engaging in load management. Once the NBA revamped in the bubble, Montrezl Harrell missed a good amount of games, Pat Bev missed a good amount of games, and Lou Will missed a good amount of games, and the Clippers never looked right in the bubble. There were even reports saying that the team didn't even want to be there, not to mention that Marcus Morris was just acquired and had to find a role fast due to the shortened regular season. With that being said, all those chemistry issues I think caught up with the Clippers, and no, I'm not making excuses, I'm just laying out what happened. It played a role in them losing the 3-1 lead to Denver. After the season, I thought that a full, healthy season with everyone playing would build the chemistry of the team and lead them to be more successful, so I still had hope for the Clippers. But many jumped off the hype train and jumped on the hate train. Maybe a healthy roster that had time to gel together is what they needed all along, who knows? Serge Ibaka fits with this team way better than Montrezl Harrell did for them last season. I'm sure Serge won't have any attitude or jealousy problems that plagued Montrezl at the end of his run with the Clippers. He can stretch the floor, which is what the Clippers needed, as he's shooting an okay 34%, but that's above and beyond what Trez could do. He's a way more capable defender, he could switch 1 to 5, and is overall more valuable. Luke Kennard and Nicholas Batum have been great pieces so far. Batum provides even more passing from the wing spot, as well as 3-point shooting. He's shooting a staggering 43% for 3 at the moment. Luke Kennard brings even more shooting as he's shooting 50-50-90 this season. Marcus Morris has finally played enough games to really get acclimated to the team. This team is coming together nicely. Another huge factor that played a role in the Clippers' downfall last season was the atrocious coaching from Doc Rivers. Throughout the Denver series, there were a bunch of questionable decisions, such as playing Trez over Zubac when Zubac was clearly the guy to go with in that series to guard Jokic, having weird rotations and lineups that included too much Reggie Jackson and Landry Shamet at times, and making zero adjustments offensively and defensively when things would go downhill and Denver would go on runs. Tell me, how many times in the playoffs did you see Doc make no adjustment when the Nuggets and even the Mavs went on a big run? Not to mention that some of the players just didn't buy into Doc's system. With Tyronn Lue head coach now, maybe he's more equipped to help this group be successful. Lue actually does make adjustments when necessary. As much as we want to say that LeBron was the coach in Cleveland, Ty Lue had some really good adjustments that led the Cavs to being very successful in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully we can see him do the same thing in LA now. Now we talked about chemistry and we talked about coaching, so the last major problem the Clippers had last season that they're fixing this season is the performance of Paul George. PG has been the most scrutinized player in the NBA by far over the past 4 to 6 months or so. Whether you want to talk about his bad shot comments from 2019, his excuse making from time to time, or his trash talk with Damian Lillard that backfired on him, you can't deny that PG has been absolutely balling out this season to start out. Yes, PG shot 39% from the field in the playoffs and only 33% from 3. Yes, he only averaged 20 points. Yes, out of the 13 playoff games that he played last season, he scored 15 or less 6 of those times. But PG is not an overall bad playoff performer. All the PG haters can cry because George has only had a couple other really bad moments in the playoffs that makes him look like a bad playoff performer. I'm talking about a Damian Lillard game winner in 2019 and the 5 points in the elimination game versus Utah in 2018. Other than that, he was pretty good in the Portland series. Coming from a diehard Russ fan, that series was his fault. Going back to 2018, yes, if PG shows up in Game 6, the Thunder probably win that series, but the series overall wasn't horrible for PG. Could he have played better? Yes, no doubt. And in 2017, 2016, 2014, and 2013, Paul George overachieved in the playoffs. With all that being said, let's give him one more chance to prove himself. Right now, he's actually looking like a top 5 MVP candidate as he's averaging 25, 6, and 5 on 50, 50, 90 shooting so far. This guy's on a mission. He looks a lot more comfortable and in flow with the offense. As we know with PG, he's a very smooth player, but all that comes from a nice rhythm, and the Clippers are running the offense through Paul George more and more it seems like, and that creates more and more rhythm. His true shooting right now is 10 percentage points higher than it was last season. His PER is higher than it was last season. I think for the Clippers to go where they want to go, the offense has to be run through Paul George. Kawhi is a better player obviously, but PG is a more all-around skilled and smooth offensive player, which includes him being a better passer. A huge reason why the Clippers struggled last season was because they got too damn stagnant offensively in the fourth quarter. Why did they get too stagnant? Because they lacked a point guard that could set up the offense for Kawhi and PG to get easy looks for them when the going gets tough. There are too many instances in which Kawhi and PG had to take such difficult shots so often. This led to the field goal percentage looking very rough. Granted, the Clippers are doing a way better job of swinging the ball as the ball movement is way better than last season, and Kawhi is top 5 in the league in assists to teammates that leads to a 3-point shot, but I still feel like it's not good enough. The Lakers had a guy like Rajon Rondo who created easy looks for Anthony Davis to the point where AD was more efficient and didn't have to do as much. Pat Bev just doesn't cut it. He makes the right pass, no doubt, but he doesn't have that next level passing ability. It would have been nice to see them pick up Rondo or CP3 or even a guy like Jrue Holiday would have done the trick in my book, but they don't have that guy. Nicholas Batum is a really good passer and has already made an impact for them passing wise and shooting wise for the team. He was a great pickup. Kawhi and PG have both upped their passing this season, and the chemistry looks like it's finally there. Defensively, this team has slipped a little bit, but I will not overreact and say that they won't figure it out defensively because they do have the personnel to be an absolutely elite defense. They will get back to form there. Like I said earlier, Ibaka is light years ahead of Trez defensively. Batum is a good defender. Morris is a good team defender when he's focused. Zubac is an underrated defender in my eyes. And obviously the big three of defense with Kawhi, PG, and Pat Bev. Ty Lue is a good defensive coach as well, so I have no problems there. Now with all that being said, I still do not think the Clippers are able to defeat the LA Lakers in the playoff series. The Lakers are just too damn loaded in my eyes. And not just loaded with the right pieces. And the Clippers are missing that floor general like I said. I honestly would pick them to beat any other team in the West right now. We all know the expectation is championship or bust with this squad, as Kawhi has a player option at the end of this season. And if the Clippers lose in disappointing fashion once again, Kawhi is likely gone, and the Clippers might as well sell their franchise after decades and decades of endless pain. With that being said, let me know how far you think the Clippers will go this season. What are they missing? Who should they pick up? Who should they sign? Lou Will has looked pretty bad this season. Should they try to trade him for a floor general point guard or another wing defender? Or what else do they need? Just let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now with that being said, this is Jimmy from Just the Facts, and I'm signing out. Peace.